You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Just wanted to say I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. It is a little bit rainy where I'm at, but that's fine. I think the grass needed it. I think maybe I needed the break from mowing the lawn, but that's okay. Soon enough, I'll be able to get back to it. We've got some pretty interesting stories for you today. There has been a new tech insider that has leaked information to James O'Keefe and Project Veritas. We've got an update on the General Michael Flynn situation, also President Trump slamming new tariffs and sanctions, on Iran. And Devin Nunes gives us an update on his $250 million lawsuit. Also, I'm going to touch on a bit of the theater that we're seeing right now with President Trump and Jeff Sessions. We're going to be right back with all of this and more, but real quick, a brief word from my sponsor. Did you guys know that when the stock market collapsed in 2008, gold rose over 20% year over year for the next 3 years? We've had an incredible bull run on the market for about 10 years now, but how long can that last? JP Morgan's co-chairman believes we may have a near 40% drop in the stock market by next year. And many investors aren't aware that they can put their money into something different besides the stock market when it comes to their IRA or 401k. No one can predict when the next financial meltdown will hit, but wouldn't it be smart to look at your options? Did you know that you can put physical gold and silver into your IRA? And yes, you'll get a tax break on it. Noble Gold has been helping regular people just like us to roll their IRA or old 401k into physical gold for years, and they have an easy 3-step process to get it done quickly and safely. It isn't complicated, it takes less than 10 minutes to do, and then you can stop worrying. So if you have questions or you want to learn more about how you can protect your IRA with physical gold, give them a call at 877-646-5347 and tell them Red Pill 78 sent you. Rolling over your IRA only takes 5 minutes, and they have a team that will help you complete the paperwork. You can get the free gold and silver investment guide and learn how you can avoid the risks of the stock market with physical gold. Call 877-646-5347 or just hit the link below and get the information for free, and you can always go to noblegoldinvestments.com. All right, first on the docket today, James O'Keefe strikes again. Project Veritas publishes explosive report featuring Google's plan to prevent Trump situation in 2020. It does not get any better than this, guys. This right here is quite literally the holy grail, the golden egg of censorship against conservatives. Not only us as conservatives, but our president, President Donald Trump. I predict a breakup in the very near future of Google and their properties. Project Veritas has released an alarming new undercover video. It includes leaked documents and testimony from a Google insider revealing the tech giant's plans to meddle in U.S. politics and prevent a Trump situation in 2020. One aspect of the report features undercover footage of longtime Google employee and head of responsible innovation, Jen Janai, arguing against Senator Elizabeth Warren's suggestion that the company should be broken up because a smaller company would not be able to prevent the next Trump situation. Elizabeth Warren is saying we should break up Google. And I love her, but she's very misguided. That we will not make it better, it will make it worse, because all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do that, Janai says. Janai also says that Google has been working diligently to prevent the results of the 2016 election from repeating in 2020, meaning they are actively engaging in election meddling and working to elect someone from the Democratic Party. I just cannot believe it. I mean, everything we know, everything we've been talking about has been confirmed by this one report from Project Veritas. We all got screwed over in 2016. Again, it wasn't just us. It was the people got screwed over. The media, news got screwed over. Everybody got screwed over. So we're rapidly been happened there, and how do we prevent that from happening again? Janai admits we're also training our algorithms. If 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different? Project Veritas, and this is Jen Janai right here on hidden camera video. Project Veritas also obtained leaked documents about how Google determines what to put in their news section. One document, which is labeled the Fake Newsletter, explains Google's mission of creating a single point of truth across their products. According to a study previously published in the Columbia Journalism Review, 86% of Google's top stories come from just 20 news outlets, the most common being none other than left-leaning CNN. The audit found that CNN, New York Times, and The Washington Post make up 23% of all referrals on their own. CJR additionally found that a whopping 62.4% of article impressions from Google were from sources that are considered left-leaning, while only 11.3% were right-leaning. The remainder were from sources that do not have bias ranking. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip from Project Veritas, Jen Janai in her own words.
The reason why I decided to come to Project Veritas is because people need to know what's actually going on with Google. There's this facade about what they're doing, but what they're actually doing, what the employees are actually seeing inside the company is different.
But the reason we launched our AI principles is because people were not putting that line in the sand, and they were not saying what is fair and what's equitable. So we're like, well, we are a big company, we're going to say it.
People who voted for the current president do not agree with our definition of fairness.
They're not objective piece, they're not an objective source of information.
But then there are teams which are called ML fairness.
ML fairness, the teams?
Fairness, like,
yeah.
You need to be fair.
And we're also training our algorithms, like if 2016 happened again, would the outcome be different?
They are a highly biased political machine that is bent on never letting somebody like Donald Trump come to power again.
2020 is certainly on top of, now my old organization, Trust and Safety, is top of mind. They've been working on it since 2016 to make sure we're ready for 2020.
This is a Goliath I'm but of David, trying to say that the emperor has no clothes.
He got called in front of Congress multiple times. They can pressure us, but we're not changing.
Being a small little ant, I can be crushed, and I'm aware of that. But this is something that is bigger than me. This is something that needs to be said to the American public.
Elizabeth Warren is saying that we should break up Google. And like, I love her, but she's very misguided. Like, that will not make it better, it'll make it worse, because now all these smaller companies who don't have the same resources that we do will be charged with preventing the next Trump situation. It's like a small company cannot do.
And it's like
Now, another document obtained by Veritas focuses on the news ecosystem and their editorial guidelines, which determine how content is displayed by the search engine. Documents previously obtained by the Daily Caller discussed how a manual blacklist is used for undesirable content, which includes a manual review tool. On the blacklist are a number of conservative sites, including Gateway Pundit, Matt Walsh's blog, Gary North's blog, TeaPartyEconomist.com, Carolyn Glick's website, Conservative Tribune, a property of the Western Journal, and the website of the American Spectator. In an undercover video of Janai, she says that we have gotten accusations of around fairness, that we're unfair to conservatives because we're choosing what we find as credible news sources, and those sources don't necessarily overlap with conservative sources. When asked by Veritas why they decided to leak this information, the anonymous Google insider said, "I think sunlight is the best disinfectant, and people need to start asking questions." I could not agree more, and my hat goes off to this Google insider for having the courage to come out with this information. Now, it gets even worse, guys. I highly recommend that everyone go and watch this video, download this video before it gets deleted like the Pinterest video. Because the things they talk about in there, programming people's minds in order to more closely align them with the narrative, what it is that these companies want us to believe, and how they believe that we should be perceiving the world, or what our thoughts and our ideas should be. They talk a lot about machine learning, fairness, AI fairness, and what they're doing is they are manually programming these AIs to level the playing field, but not necessarily level the playing field. They are programming them to give overrepresentation to certain areas of the playing field and dramatically underrepresent and just completely bury conservative sources. And that comes that's when it comes to videos, that's when it comes to print stories, it's when it comes to basically anything that might have a conservative lean. Google, in this case, is protected as an internet platform. They are given leeway because they are not supposed to be a publisher. They are not supposed to be doing editorial decisions in these cases, but they clearly are. And what they've done is they have virtually have the market cornered on controlling the internet and how people perceive the world and the kinds of things that they are allowed to look up and the kinds of things they are allowed to learn about. Now, I think this is an excellent time to bring up my own personal story. I have a whistleblower myself who contacted me. However, this individual has a family. They're very worried about losing their job, and I'm really hoping that once they see this story, they'll be willing to come out and speak about this from their own perspective. Because what I was told is that my name has been added to a blacklist of sorts. And it's not just a blacklist, it's a list of accounts that are scheduled for deletion. And for deletion on things that are going to be largely made up. I hope that anybody who watches this show probably realizes that I try to be very careful in the way that I phrase things and also in the way that I say things online. I don't engage people in arguments. I don't say things that people could misconstrue as being hate speech or bullying. And I do that because I want to maintain my platform. You know, we're talking about uncomfortable truths here. And there's a way you can do that so that you can reach the largest possible audience. And that really is my goal here. I want to be able to reach as many people as possible to inform them about the truth of what's actually going on. I don't need to use invective, I don't need to use profanity, and I don't need to defame anyone when I do that. And so far, I've been very successful doing that. But it looks like I am scheduled for deletion in one form or another. Now, the most striking thing about this list that this Twitter insider told me was that it's not just a list that is maintained and curated by Twitter. It's a list that is maintained and curated and shared by all of these social media platforms. So that means that between Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google, and anyone else that you can think of that's in these big tech, this big tech arena, they all have access to this list, and they are all looking for reasons to get rid of certain people. So it's also a great time to mention to everybody that I do have 2 backup channels that you can go subscribe to. They are in the description box below. And if something becomes necessary for me to move to another platform, I certainly will, and I hope that you all will come with me over there. But in the meantime, this is where the people are. And I don't think that we should be forced to leave to go someplace else, to a smaller platform or to a place where fewer people are going to have access to the content. So I think that this is going to be a big, big deal. This report is quite large in terms of its impact and the information that it brings forth, and I can only hope that the president and his team, someone at the Federal Trade Commission, sees this report and realizes just how bad things have gotten. Again, these are the things that we've been talking about for quite some time that you and I already know were going on. Only now we have the documentation directly from the source. We have an insider who is reporting on it to Project Veritas, and they have done an incredible job cataloging it and putting it together into an easily digestible form. All right, now, new information on General Michael Flynn. He was spotted leaving a D.C. court, and his sentencing has been delayed again. And obviously, this is due to the fact that he has retained new counsel. General Mike Flynn was spotted leaving a D.C. court Monday afternoon after a 2-hour closed-door meeting with his new legal counsel. Flynn's sentencing was delayed again at the request of his new lawyers so that they can get caught up on his case. A couple weeks ago, Flynn abruptly fired his lawyers ahead of his sentencing and brought on lead defense lawyer Sidney Powell. She's a harsh critic of Robert Mueller and his pit bull, Andrew Weissman. Flynn's new lead lawyer, Sidney Powell, replied no comment when asked by Josh Gerstein, a legal reporter for Politico, about the reason for the shift in lawyers. And here we have a tweet from Josh Gerstein saying that Flynn just left the D.C. court after a nearly 2-hour closed-door meeting with his new attorneys. When I asked Flynn about the reason for the shift, the new lead lawyer, Sidney Powell, replied no comments. Now, according to Politico, Flynn's sentencing has been delayed again so Flynn's lawyers can study up on his case. At a hearing Monday, Powell said she needs at least another 90 days to get up to speed on the case before Flynn receives his punishment for pleading guilty to lying to the FBI about his communications with a top Russian official. Judge Emmett Sullivan gave Sidney Powell 2 months to catch up on Flynn's case and ordered a status report at the end of August. And there's still more to come, Powell said Monday morning in court for a separate hearing. Flynn was hunted down by the former president's corrupt intel agencies for ruin because he dared speak the truth about that president. President Trump should issue General Michael Flynn a full pardon. I sincerely agree with the Gateway Pundit and their reporting on this issue. Michael Flynn did nothing wrong. He exposed wrongdoings, and that is why he was targeted, and that's why they came after him, and they had to remove him from President Trump's administration. Now, there is some more information on this story, and we're going to go back to Twitter just to check out a little bit of that. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to locate the tweets that were supposedly being live tweeted from the hearing that General Flynn attended this morning, but Methods was telling me that it appeared that Sidney Powell was asking for a security clearance so that she could review certain documents. Now, the prosecution actually responded and said there's nothing classified in the material that we've already presented. So that begs the question, is Sidney Powell and Michael Flynn now intending to introduce something of a classified nature into the court proceedings? Now, here we have a video of General Flynn actually leaving the courthouse this morning. Let's take a look at this short clip. General Flynn looks to be in good health. Sidney Powell is a very capable attorney, and I really think that she's got him in a good position here. So let's keep an eye on this closely, guys. I think that maybe some information on this is about to break very soon. Sidney Powell knows what she's doing. Now, President Trump is no slouch when it comes to dealing with antagonistic world powers, and Trump has slammed Iran with new hard-hitting sanctions. President Trump on Monday slapped Iran by issuing new hard-hitting financial sanctions against Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and his associates in Iran. Today's action follows a series of aggressive behaviors by the Iranian regime in recent weeks, including shooting down a U.S. drone, the president said in the Oval Office, calling Khamenei responsible for the hostile conduct of the regime. Less than a week after Iran shot down a $180 million drone, which Iranian officials claim was flying over Iranian airspace, the Treasury Department said any foreign financial institution that knowingly facilitates a significant financial transaction for entities designated under this executive order could be cut off from the U.S. financial system. Quite a stark rebuke. In the Oval Office, Trump said the sanctions will deny the Supreme Leader and the Supreme Leader's office and those closely affiliated with him and the office access to key financial resources and support. The assets of Ayatollah Khamenei will not be spared from the sanctions. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin also said that the sanctions lock up literally billions of dollars more of assets. Along with that action today, we are also announcing a specific sanction targeting those responsible for recent activities, Mnuchin said. After Iran shot down the U.S. drone, the U.S. military retaliated with a cyber attack against the nation. Then last Thursday, Trump moved forward with planned airstrikes, then called the attack off at the last minute. I stopped it, not proportionate to shooting down an unmanned drone, Trump wrote on Twitter on Thursday. But Trump said he's showing restraint with the new sanctions. We will continue to increase pressure on Tehran until the regime abandons its dangerous activities and its aspirations, including the pursuit of nuclear weapons, increased enrichment of uranium, development of ballistic missiles, engagement in and support for terrorism, fueling of foreign conflicts, and belligerent acts directed against the United States and its allies, Trump said. Never can Iran have a nuclear weapon. We do not seek conflict with Iran or any other country. I think a lot of restraint has been shown by us, but that doesn't mean we're going to show it in the future. Trump also said the sanctions came about because of the drone attack. Today's actions follow a series of aggressive behaviors by the Iranian regime in recent weeks, including shooting down of U.S. drones, Trump said. The supreme leader of Iran is the one who ultimately is responsible for the hostile conduct of the regime. He is respected within his country. His office oversees the regime's most brutal instruments, including the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Now, I, for one, am very glad to see that President Trump is resorting to sanctions and the cyber attacks that were reported over the weekend rather than just going to war with Iran. We've seen what war in the Middle East does to our troops and to the people of those areas. The people of these countries, although there may be some that don't like the U.S., and I don't know really what those numbers are, so I'm not going to speculate, it's the leaders of these countries that are causing the problems. And in some cases, it is our own intelligence community working with those leaders to cause problems specifically for President Trump and his administration. There is no agenda besides the Trump agenda. This is the American agenda. This is what President Trump is doing. And President Trump is very, very intelligent. He knows not to just go in and go off half-cocked and start blowing things up because people are going to die. All right, it's going to start a world conflict. We do not need to get started in another war. President Trump is not interested in endless wars, and it's one of the things that he campaigned on. So I'm very, very happy that he didn't go to war with Iran. Now, you've got people like Bill Kristol, you've got people like Ben Shapiro, you've got people like even John Bolton, who are very, very interested in going to war with Iran, and they have been for many years. Now, President Trump is doing what he can to keep this country together and move us to a point of just a better point overall. But he has the need to keep certain people around him, which give a lot of my viewers pause and make people very nervous. People like John Bolton. But I just want you to realize that until this point, John Bolton has not started a war with any other country as long as he's been under the purview of President Donald Trump. Sometimes it's very necessary to keep certain people very close to you so that you can keep an eye on them, so that you know exactly what they're doing, and so that you can stay one step ahead. And I truly believe that's what President Trump is doing. When he first came into power, it was very necessary for him to surround himself with deep state swamp monsters because there was no other way that he was going to get an administration started any other way. So now President Trump, he's moved slowly away from that. We're getting closer to the 2020 election, and he's done a really good job of cleaning all those people out. There's still a couple of holdovers, and there still is the need for that because the deep state still needs to be thinking that they are the ones who are in control. Well, guess what, guys? It's President Trump that's in control, and by virtue of that, it is the American people that are in control. We are now in control of our own country again, and as time goes on, it will get better and better and better. Mark my words, President Trump knows exactly what he's doing, so don't worry, guys. Grab your popcorn. It's going to be okay. Now, Devin Nunes is out there talking about his court date for the $250 million lawsuit against Twitter for censoring conservatives. It's set for the end of August. Could not be happier about this. Representative Devin Nunes, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, went on with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures. And during their discussion, Rep. Nunes told Maria that the FBI was hiding documents from Congress for 2.5 years. Nunes believes U.S. Attorney John Durham will eventually find out who in the FBI was hiding these documents from Congress. And these documents will prove that the former president's Department of Justice knew that the Steele dossier was a complete and total fraud when they used it to spy on the Trump campaign in early 2016. Now, Rep. Nunes also gave Maria Bartiromo an update on his lawsuit against Twitter. Devin Nunes is suing Twitter for $250 million in damages for censoring conservatives back in March. A 2018 study by the leftist website Vice News found that Twitter is censoring top pro-Trump lawmakers. Twitter is targeting pro-Trump Republican lawmakers Matt Gaetz, Devin Nunes, Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and John Ratcliffe with the same shadow banning technique. Twitter was and is also censoring prominent pro-Trump accounts, including Mike Cernovich, Jack Posobiec, Paul Joseph Watson, the Gateway Pundit's Jim Hoft, the Gateway Pundit's Cassandra Fairbanks, former Gateway Pundit writer Lucian Wintrich, and the Gateway Pundit's Christina Layla and Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer has since been completely eliminated from Twitter. Now, on Sunday, Representative Nunes said his court date is set for the end of August. This is wonderful news here, guys. I am really hoping we're going to see some resolution on this issue. And perhaps once Twitter has to pull into their pocketbook to pay for the things they've done, they'll think twice about doing it in the future. Now, this is not the only thing that needs to happen. We still need to go through the FTC hearings. We need to bring these tech companies before Congress and have them actually start telling the truth, because up until this point, they've been lying, and they've been lying hard.
Welcome back, and we are back with Congressman Devin Nunes. And Congressman, before I get into Iran, and also I want to get your thoughts on China, let me ask you about your lawsuits against media. You have sued Twitter as well as McClatchy. Tell us about that.
Well, the Twitter one is important. We start the discovery process tomorrow, so we will be sending out a bunch of subpoenas and asking for information from all the folks that were involved in allowing Twitter to not only develop content, but also shadow ban me so your viewers and Americans couldn't see my tweets for a period of time. We don't even know how long. So I'm very worried about this for the next election, whether, I call the tech oligarchs, whether it's Twitter or Google or Facebook. It always seems like most of the time it's the conservatives that get kicked off, and you can't see our platforms, or you can't see us on their platforms, where the left, they get away with murder. And so that's this discovery process on Twitter starts tomorrow. And then, of course, we have more lawsuits that are on the way. And I hate to be having to do this, but it's really the only way that this problem can be fixed. Because if we don't, conservatives, I think, are going to be doomed in future elections, because all of these tech companies are against us. And I think Republicans and conservatives across the country need to understand this, and they need to take action now. And the only remedy we have is the court. Are
you concerned that Twitter will try to influence the election in 2020 by doing whatever they can, like shadow banning, et cetera? And
Maria, they're already doing it.
Yeah,
they're already doing it. I mean, it's clear what they've done to me is ridiculous. What they continue to do to others. I mean, you see people getting kicked off of Twitter for nothing. You see the same thing happening at Facebook. You see, 90+% of all the searches go through Google. We know that Google's been actually blocking emails from going out. So, look, there's going to be a number of
lawsuits. Is that illegal? Is it illegal, Congressman?
Well, it depends on if you can prove it in court, right? So it takes people that are willing to step up and take these companies on, which I'm willing to do, not because I want to do it, but because it has to be done, because in the long run, we can't compete if social media is totally against the conservatives and the Republican Party.
Because they say they're not media companies. Do you want to see legislation that puts them under the umbrella of media companies?
Look, I think the courts, what we're saying is that Twitter and these companies, they're content developers. They claim to be, we're just an open public square. We treat everybody equally. Well, they don't treat everybody equally. It's not even close. And so what I want is I want my day in court to go before a judge and a jury to explain how it is that Twitter treats conservatives differently than the left.
Okay.
And maybe, perhaps, if they have to pay, and if we have to open up their books and we have to look at all their algorithms, maybe we can fix them. And if not, then maybe they have to be broken apart. I don't know what to do.
And I know you have a court date set for the end of August on this.
That's correct.
All right,
Sometimes with some people, the only way they start listening to you is when it hits their pocketbooks. Now, $250 million is actually not that much money when you're talking about these types of companies. I reported previously that when YouTube changed their algorithm earlier this year, Alphabet Incorporated lost a $72 billion market cap. Their value dropped by that much because of the things that they were willing to do to silence conservatives. So I don't know that $250 million is going to do too much to Twitter, but if we can get them into court, if we can get some discovery going, then perhaps that will be, the watershed moment for us here. We've already seen things coming out of Twitter. We've seen things coming out of these other companies. And really, this is a major, major problem. And if we don't get a handle on it, then we're lost. All right, and finally, President Trump admits his biggest mistake was appointing Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Now, I'm going to read this article, but I am also going to make several comments on it. President Trump sat down for an interview with MSNBC host Chuck Todd and told him his biggest regrets from his first term as U.S. president. The president told Chuck Todd that if he could have one do-over, it would be personnel. I would say if I had one do-over, it would be I would not have appointed Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General. In your mind, that's your worst mistake, Chuck said. Yeah, that was my biggest mistake, Chuck replied. Yeah, that was my biggest mistake, Trump replied. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
If you could have one do-over as president, what would it be?
Well, it would be personnel. I would say if I had one do-over, it would be I would not have appointed Jeff Sessions to be Attorney General. That would be my one.
In your mind, that's
yeah, that was the big.
Bill Barr, you're
Chuck Todd, what a condescending jerk. Trump is correct. His appointment of Jeff Sessions proved to be a disaster for his first 2 years because the Department of Justice got hijacked by deep state criminals. After recusing himself like a coward and allowing Rosenstein and Mueller to hijack the Justice Department for 2 years, which ended in a bloodbath of Trump associates, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions had the gall to say in April that it's time to move past the Mueller probe. Thankfully, Trump fired Jeff Sessions in November and brought on Bill Barr to be his new Attorney General. Barr took control of Mueller's witch hunt and immediately shut it down. Sessions cited the wrong law when he recused himself from the Russia investigation and all things Hillary Clinton the first day on the job. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein became the de facto Attorney General and quickly appointed Special Counsel Robert Mueller and gave him permission with 3 scope memos to rove around unchecked in a massive $35 million witch hunt. Mueller, Rosenstein, Weissman, and over a dozen angry, crooked Democrat donors on the special counsel's team ruined many lives and reputations over the past 2 years with perjury traps and damaging leaks to the media. General Michael Flynn, George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, and Carter Page were targeted for ruin. Manafort ended up in solitary confinement and sentenced to over 10 years in prison. Flynn, a 3-star general, was forced to sell a home after being buried in legal fees thanks to Mueller's corrupt witch hunt. Good riddance, Jeff Sessions. Now, while I agree it has been extremely tragic that these people's lives were targeted and that they were caught in the crossfire, I do believe that it's going to be made right over time. I also think that this was all part of the plan to show just how crooked these people were. It is clearly obvious to everybody involved that this entire investigation was illegitimate, that the things that the former administration did were completely illegal. Now, if this hadn't come out in this way, would it have been able to come out? Discovery, discovery, discovery. These things are now part of the American lexicon. They understand. People in America now understand that this was an illegitimate investigation and that the FISA warrants that were used to target these people were completely illegal. I think that Jeff Sessions and President Trump are actually still good friends. And I think that this theater of them arguing in public, President Trump saying that it was a mistake that he hired him, I think that it is also part of the play. We are watching the greatest movie ever made, you guys. This argument between President Trump and Jeff Sessions, it makes the deep state feel like Jeff Sessions didn't do anything. But we know that he appointed Huber. We know that Huber worked alone, with a team, but without being bothered for quite some time. And all of that information was handed over to John Durham. We started off with what appeared to be a weak person, Jeff Sessions. And now we have Durham and we have Barr, and they are working on everything that was done during the Jeff Sessions tenure. I think that this is all designed to make the deep state think that they are safe. It allowed them to continue to just act upon their evil whims and do whatever they wanted to the entire time that Jeff Sessions was in there, because they thought that they were never going to get caught. They never expected to get caught, and they thought that they were going to get away with it. It allowed them to rest on their laurels and think that everything was fine. But now that Bill Barr and John Durham are here, guess what, guys? It's time to pay the piper. All right, well, I think that's all I have for you today, folks. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.